Hi there, and welcome back to CBC News BC on this Tuesday afternoon. I am Jessica Chung here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Let's get you caught up on your top stories. We're going to start in Abbotsford, where there's been a fatal shooting at a homeless encampment at the Whatcom Road Park and Ride. Now, police say that they got reports of shots fired just after 11 o'clock last night. A man was found with serious injuries. He was taken to hospital but didn't survive. And one encampment resident says he heard a loud bang, then saw first responders arrive and try to resuscitate the victim. The homicide investigators have taken over the case, and police say that the shooting is believed to be targeted, although the full circumstances are not clear yet. And they also say that no arrests have been made. And a hiker who fell down steep, treacherous terrain on Mount Brunswick over the weekend has died of his injuries. Now, the BC Coroner Service confirms that the man who fell 150 meters while trying to help another person in his hiking group died on Sunday, and that's a day after the incident occurred. Now, search and rescue teams were called in to rescue and airlift out two hikers who fell while journeying down the mountain. The coroner's investigation into the death is ongoing. And 4 people have died in 2 separate avalanches in northwest BC. RCMP say on Sunday, 3 heli-skiers were killed in an avalanche on Mount Noss, that's north of Terrace. Now, Terrace RCMP say that they received reports of an avalanche on one of the mountain's ski runs that afternoon. 4 people were part of that group, with 1 person airlifted to hospital. And then just a few hours later, another avalanche, this one in Atlan, was reported with 1 person dying. Now, 9 people have died in avalanches in BC since December. And more than a month after the deadly mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, tales of bravery from those who survived are being shared. Now, at the National Prayer Breakfast in Ottawa this morning, Conservative MP Bob Zimmer spoke of a student named Christina who helped shield victims in the library at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School.
Christina, during the shooting, grabbed wounded Maya in her left arm like this, and grabbed Abel Jr. in her right arm like this, and proceeded to pull them both under the table for protection. She held them both and was there for about 30 minutes while the shooting continued in the aftermath that followed. Maya is recovering in hospital today, I know in part thanks to Christina. But sadly, as you all know, Abel Jr. died.
Now, Christina was also able to relay a final message from Abel Jr. to his parents, telling them that he loved them. Now, 8 people, most of them young children, were killed in the mass shooting on February 10th. And visitors heading out to see cherry blossoms in Richmond are being reminded to enjoy the blooms responsibly. Now, every spring, thousands visit the city to admire the delicate and short-lived flowers. Signs have gone up in several parks, including Garry Point Park, asking people not to pull branches, pick blossoms, or shake the trees.
Touching the flowers is one thing. It's when you grab the branch and pull it down, that often will lead to the branch snapping, and that's something we don't want to encourage.
Now, with more visitors expected in the coming weeks, the city is also warning of heavy traffic and is encouraging people to take transit when necessary. And that's it for me. You're watching CBC News BC. Don't go anywhere because we've got lots more for you. I'm Jessica Chung. BC Today is up next. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. U.S. transportation officials have just issued an update on that deadly runway collision at New York's LaGuardia Airport. We'll bring you that update up first. Plus, warnings of extreme avalanche risk in parts of British Columbia. 4 skiers were killed in the north over the weekend. We'll talk to Avalanche Canada, and we'll take your calls. Plus, after 12:30, we'll talk to decluttering expert Linda Chu, and you can call in with your own spring cleaning tips. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. It's now more than 36 hours since the deadly crash between an Air Canada passenger jet and a fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia Airport. There are questions about whether air traffic control was adequately staffed and about why that emergency vehicle didn't heed a last-second warning to stop before it crossed onto an active runway. Jennifer Homendy is chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. She spoke in the last hour. And Homendy cautioned against media reporting that focused on whether distraction was an issue for the air traffic controllers. She said that it is often more than one factor involved.
We rarely, if ever, investigate a major accident where it was one failure. Our aviation system is incredibly safe because there are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many, many things went wrong. And so here, that's why we're here. We're here to prevent this from reoccurring, prevent this from happening again. And that's going to take some time.
Now, Homendy said that NTSB officials will start to conduct interviews this afternoon. She also said they do not yet know if the firefighters in the emergency vehicle heard the controller's command to stop. And she also said the truck did not have a transponder. Much more on that story throughout the day here on CBC. It's now 12:08. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. We're going to talk now about 4 deaths in avalanche incidents over the weekend. 3 of the people were killed on Sunday after an avalanche hit their heli-skiing group near Terrace. A 4th was killed in another part of the Northwest, around 500 kilometers from Atlan. Now, 9 people have died in avalanches in BC since last December. Joining me now is Tyson Reddy, a forecaster with Avalanche Canada. Good afternoon, Tyson. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
How would you compare the avalanche conditions this year with previous years?
It's tough to make a season by season comparison because avalanche danger is so dynamic. It's something that can change day to day and in very extreme examples over the course of even just a few minutes. We do have a rolling 10-year average of avalanche fatalities in Canada of 10, so an average of 10 a year. So, if you look at it that way, we're within our annual average. I mean, it's an unfortunate number, but it's a metric that we can track, and that so far we are not above average.
And where are the areas of the province that are of particular concern?
Well, the areas we're most concerned about right now are areas where a very thick crust didn't form after the recent atmospheric river events. So that would be upper elevations in the Selkirks, Monashees, Purcell, and Caribou Mountains, as well as upper elevations further north in the southwest. So think about like the Duffy Corridor, for example, as well as the northwest corner of the province. The first pulse of the atmospheric river event that did hit that area was much colder, and the precipitation predominantly fell as snow. So we don't have a significant crust up in the northwest, and that crust is generally preventing the public from being able to trigger layers deeper in the snowpacks where the crust isn't present. We have particular concern because deeper layers could still be triggered. And then the other thing that's driving avalanche danger currently around the province is the active weather that much of the province is experiencing right now.
Yeah, right. And so when it comes to the high risk areas, are they mostly affecting more remote parts of the province? Like I note that in these cases, heli skiing was involved.
No, the areas where we're not seeing that crust and therefore still have concerns about deeper layers in the snowpack are not necessarily in remote areas. So, for example, I'm here in Invermere and in the bigger mountains to the west of me, in the Purcells and the Selkirks, at upper tree line in some areas, or certainly in the Alpine. We wouldn't expect that there would be a really thick crust that would prevent skiers or snowmobilers from triggering layers deeper in the snowpack. So it's not just in remote areas. It's really about elevation when it comes to whether or not that crust exists down south. And then up north, kind of a different story because the weather was just generally colder during that weather event.
Right. What would you say to people now then who are considering, who did not, get a chance to experience snow over the winter and have been seeing some of that activity and are wanting to get out there?
Yeah, there's still plenty of opportunities to recreate safely in the winter backcountry. There's still good skiing and sledding and hiking to be done. It's about choosing terrain that matches the current conditions. And so starting your day by looking at a weather forecast, looking at the avalanche forecast for your area, and starting to go down that funnel of choosing appropriate terrain for the conditions is really important. And keeping in mind, those areas where we still have concerns about those deeper weak layers, which that is described in the avalanche forecasts. And then once you're out there, verifying conditions, making sure that what you're seeing on the ground matches what you read about. Is your trip plan still going to work once you've got your boots on the ground and you see what's going on with the snow, what's going on with weather, et cetera. And if you're following that daily process that you learn about within an avalanche skills training course, it should be very doable to find great winter recreation out there that is still within an acceptable level of risk.
What are the warning signs people should look out for?
Yeah, there's a few classic signs of instability that we tell people about. So one of them is what we call a whump. And the whump is a sound of air escaping from the snowpack when a weak layer collapses. So if you're traveling on low angle terrain, you're not on steep slopes, and you hear that sound, that's an indication that there could be a weak layer in the snowpack that your weight is able to trigger. And if you were on a steeper slope, that may have actually been an avalanche that you triggered, not just a whump. So that's a really classic one that we tell people about. Looking for avalanche activity is another really important one. If you're seeing natural avalanches around you, or if you're seeing other recreationists triggering small avalanches, that's a great indication that there is a instability in the snowpack that you are likely able to trigger. If it's able to occur naturally, then your weight on the snowpack could probably do it as well. So signs of avalanches are a great sign of instability. And then another one is shooting cracks. As you're traveling over the snow, if you're seeing cracks shoot out in front of your snowmobile or in front of your snowshoes as you're walking, or your skis, that type of thing, that's another great indicator that there's a weak layer in the snowpack or a weak interface that you're able to trigger.
And so just get out as quickly as you can?
Yeah, I mean, if you're traveling on low elevation terrain, when you're seeing those things, if you're not in avalanche terrain, then they're just good observations to make that can indicate that there is an instability on the snowpack. And then that's your clue to think, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be in steeper terrain. Maybe I don't want to be on avalanche terrain if I'm seeing those instabilities when I'm not in avalanche terrain.
Okay. And what can people do to try and avoid triggering even those small avalanches?
Yeah. So once again, matching your terrain choice to the appropriate conditions for the day. So, for example, if you're reading the forecast and the forecast is telling you to avoid wind-affected terrain in the Alpine, then if you are choosing to travel in the Alpine, looking for hard wind-affected snow, trying to figure out where you're seeing where those conditions exist within the terrain and then avoiding it. Or when we're talking about, the signs of instability we just discussed, if you're seeing that, in open tree line features, then that's a great indication that, you're in somewhere where the thick crust I described maybe doesn't exist. You're able to trigger deeper weak layers, in which case, you want to dial back your terrain choice and avoid avalanche terrain at that elevation or in those terrain features where you're seeing those instabilities. But I also would like to say that there are times when no signs of instability are observed. That first sign of instability is perhaps a very large avalanche that you've triggered. And so areas where we've got considerable avalanche danger, it's best to just choose low consequence conservative terrain just to begin with and stick with that for the day. Make a plan in the morning to choose conservative terrain and just stick to it, even if you don't see signs of instability in areas where we're already warning of those layers and we've already rated avalanche danger as considerable.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tyson, I know you said things change, but what will you be watching for over the next week or so?
Yeah, great question. We're going to be constantly reviewing avalanche observations that are submitted to us by both professionals and recreationists to track how those layers change over time. Do we start to see more activity or less activity? And then we also are keeping track of weather constantly throughout the day and reevaluating the weather situation. When we see active weather coming in off the coast, we see these, storms bringing strong winds and precipitation like we're experiencing now. That wind and new snow will increase avalanche danger. So monitoring changes in weather is a constant thing we're doing as avalanche forecasters to keep our forecasts up to date.
Tyson, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tyson Reddy is a forecaster with Avalanche Canada. It's 12:17 now, and we're taking your calls. How concerned are you about the conditions right now and the risk of avalanche? What are you seeing when you head out? Have you gone into the backcountry in recent days? And tell us about any important avalanche safety tips you would like to share yourself. Have you ever witnessed an avalanche yourself? You can share that story with us too. 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or 1-800-825-5950. You can also email us. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. And we're also live on TikTok, and you can leave your comment there. My next guest is Sandra Riches, the Executive Director of BC Adventure Smart. Sandra, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back on, Michelle.
Can you tell us, given the risk, obviously, that we're hearing about, what that means in terms of the kinds of planning that people should be taking?
There's a lot of planning to do, no matter the season, no matter the adventure, but the key point is that it's always done. We talk a lot about the 3 T's here at BC Adventure Smart: trip planning, training, taking the essentials. That trip planning piece is critical. Tyson mentioned a lot of items you need to check off your list, and understanding where you're going, what you're doing, what you're wearing, what you're carrying, your group dynamics, everyone's abilities, certifications, and skills all go into that planning piece as you're figuring out where you're going and what you're doing. So you're actually sitting down before your adventure and talking about your goals and what you want to do and succeed at that day. Then you want to file all of that in a trip plan. If you head over to adventuresmart.ca, there's a wonderful web-based trip planning tool that will help you prompt you through those phases. And then you send it off to an emergency contact in case something goes wrong. That information is there for emergency services.
It's interesting. You say there's so much planning involved, including who is on your crew, your team with you, depending on certification, the dynamic, as you mentioned. So that's a lot of planning. And as we heard, things can change, right? Conditions can change. And so how closely are you watching for that, even though you've already got your trip plan together?
You're planning prior. So you're using everything that Tyson just mentioned: the avalanche forecast, the weather, your group dynamics, but then also in the field, you're assessing each other, you're supporting each other, and you're watching how your group is moving through that terrain. We talk a lot about also the buddy system, which is an excellent little protocol to put in place. Everyone can pair off with another, and you're looking out for that buddy, and you're checking on them, their wellness, their physical movement through the terrain. How are they doing? Did they have a snack at break? Are they with you? Can you see them? So you always have accountability within your group. You'll also do some assessment at every junction you get to. Check in with everybody to see how they're doing. Do we need an extra long break? Should we turn around? Is everyone having a good day, a bad day? Does anyone have gear issues? Really just checking in as you move through the terrain can also benefit the group as well.
And can you talk to me more about, as Tyson talked about, just keeping an eye on the conditions themselves, looking for the warning signs and making decisions based on that?
having our eyes open, looking around, paying attention to what terrain we were in. We talk a lot about situational awareness. That could be by the group moving past swift moving water, being below a cornice, being on top of a cornice, visibility, tree coverage, exposure, the aspect that you're on, how you're moving through that terrain is key. And you keeping your eyes open for each other as a group, individually, communicating those signals and signs you might be seeing out there. You could see a weather system come in. You could see someone in the group that is reacting differently to the conditions. You're always looking for clues to see how you can successfully reach your destination. And remember, your destination is home. The peak, the summit, that's only halfway. You still have to turn around and come back home.
Yeah, absolutely. My guest is Sandra Riches, Executive Director of BC Adventure Smart. And we're taking your calls as well, given the avalanche risk in parts of the province. How concerned are you about those conditions? And have you been to the backcountry, and what have you observed yourself? What are some tips you want to share with us? And if you've ever witnessed an avalanche, you can let us know too what lessons you'd like to impart from that. 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. And you can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Sandra, given the courses that you provide at BC Adventure Smart, and I'm wondering what you hear from people when it comes to what they've seen in the past, whether they've witnessed an avalanche and what that was like, and this is perhaps why they've decided to come take the course.
We do have a few courses. Thanks for mentioning that, Michelle. We have 5 programs underneath the Adventure Smart umbrella. The winter programs are our Snow Safety Education Program and Survive Outside Snowmobile. The main focus of both of those programs are the 3 T's that I mentioned earlier: trip planning, training, taking essentials. We also incorporate a what to do in an emergency section in both of those curriculums. They're free of charge, and you can book them at adventuresmart.ca. What we've heard from the public before is that programs like what we offer are excellent introductory courses. They help people understand the lingo, the language, how we communicate to each other in this industry, and what, how you can then decipher more about a course that's a little bit more advanced. Let's say you move on to the avalanche skills training course, like Tyson mentioned. With us, you'll be introduced to that language, that lingo, and be able to successfully understand what they're talking about in the AST courses. So we have quite a few people who join our courses and take them who are new to the outdoors, or want a refresher and really just want to sharpen their pencil again, get back into the swing of things, and be reminded of the very basics. And then we also always encourage anyone who's spending time in the backcountry in the winter to move on to that next step. Take an avalanche skills training course, sharpen your skills there, really start that process of learning a little bit more about how you move through that terrain and assess the situation, and the AST will do that for you.
What do you hear from people as to why they're taking the course?
I think we've all done a really good job, Avalanche Canada included, and BC Adventure Smart, at encouraging outdoor enthusiasts to get informed, to get trained, and to take the training, and to be more educated about their choices out there, to take a little bit more responsibility. We have a lot of enthusiastic outdoor people in British Columbia who have easy access to incredible terrain. And I believe what I've seen in my career in outdoor recreation, 30 plus years, is there's a bit of a shift in enthusiasts understanding that responsibility, taking that responsibility, getting the training, if it's with us or Avalanche Canada, and paying a little bit more attention to their personal preparedness, to their group dynamics, and understanding that they play a key role in helping to reduce the impacts on search and rescue, and adding to that safety culture in British Columbia. And that comes from taking the courses from us, taking the courses from AvCan, having a conversation at a trailhead, meeting prior to your adventure and trip planning in detail. And all of that can really help the over 3,200 volunteer members in British Columbia who last year responded to 1,940 search and rescue calls in BC.
Wow. What do you hear from those search and rescue personnel?
They're grateful for those who take the time to plan They're grateful for those who take the time to prepare and who are rescue ready. It can really, really reduce the severity of a search and rescue task when an individual or even a group knows what to do at a situation, at a scene, if there's an accident that's happened. And if they know how to manage that, create shelter, build a fire, communicate with search and rescue, keep their friend or their subject warm, fed, comfortable until search and rescue arrives, if that's a few hours or overnight, that's reducing the severity of that task. That's still success, because if that task only lasted 6 hours versus 12, that's a win.
Sandra, always good to speak with you. Good reminders all around. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Sandra Riches is Executive Director at BC Adventure Smart. It's just about 12:27 now. You're with BC Today. In other news, a report from Canada's Auditor General says a drop in international student permit approvals in BC was far greater than the federal government had intended. The report says BC was supposed to have an 18% drop in new permits, but instead that number fell by 66% in 2024 compared to the year before. BC's Minister of Post-Secondary Education, Jessie Sunner, says the changes have had significant impact on the post-secondary sector.
We've really taken a hit to the reputation that Canada has as a destination for quality education, and it's impacted the number of genuine quality applicants that want to come to Canada. And whether it's a matter of their permits not being approved, or with institutions having greater instability and uncertainty when it comes to their student programs, that's really had an impact, and we're seeing it. Nearly all of our public post-secondary institutions especially are seeing devastating and significant revenue losses. And this comes because the federal government's decisions here were made without consultation with provinces, without consultation with institutions, and without any kind of lead time to prepare institutions for the changes that they were implementing. And as we can see from the report's findings, they aren't having the intended impacts that even the federal government wanted.
That's Jessie Sunner, BC's Minister of Post-Secondary Education. $12:29 now. You're with BC Today. Now, it's been 1 year since the federal election was called, and yesterday we asked you how you would rate the performance of Mark Carney's Liberals. And GP wrote us this email. Carney definitely failed all climate change motivation with the Alberta Memorandum and his pushing for mining and other fossil fuel projects. But his most dastardly record is that of his tendency toward authoritarian governance. This may be overlooked because Canadians are too absorbed with Trump's dictatorial ways. Carney's Bill C-5, C-15, Section 12, etc., give his ministers and him powers that make Parliament almost redundant. Overall, I would say PM Carney is focusing too much on travels to form trade agreements with other nations, but we don't know what the results are. Lack of transparency, his mode of operation. GP, thank you for that email. I'll note as well, GP referred to Bill C-5. That's the Building Canada Act, focused on major infrastructure projects in the national interest. And C-15, Section 12, gives ministerial exemption power, in which ministers can grant exemptions from federal regulations like the Impact Assessment Act or Species at Risk Act, if they deem it in the public interest for economic growth or innovation. GP, thank you for that. This email as well from Lana in Coquitlam. I personally am pleased with Mark Carney's performance as Prime Minister. I think the friction with the U.S. may have been a huge wake-up call for our country. It has led us, through Carney, to become less reliant on the United States. We are finally investing in our military that has been so neglected through both parties for decades. We're now investing in other countries, and other countries are now looking to Canada to invest in. I think that Carney has been more active in helping Canada move forward than some past prime ministers. Is he perfect? No, but better than the alternative. Thank you for your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca is where you can send us more of your thoughts. It's 12:30 now, time for a CBC News update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. A man is dead after he was shot last night at a homeless encampment in Abbotsford. Police believe the man was targeted, but there's no word on a motive. No arrests have been made. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team is now taking over the case. The BC Coroner's Service is confirming a hiker who fell down steep, treacherous terrain on Mount Brunswick while trying to help another person has died. Search and rescue teams were called in to help after the two hikers fell while heading down the mountain on Saturday. The man fell 150 meters and was airlifted to hospital in critical condition. The coroner says he passed away the following day. And FIFA has announced details of a World Cup viewing party in Victoria next week. It will be held on the grounds of the legislature on Tuesday and will show a test event that will determine who Canada faces in their tournament opener in Toronto, June 12th. That match starts at 11:45. And now a look at the BC weather. Winter storm warnings are in effect for several areas, including the Peace, Prince George, and Stewart-Nechaco. Wind warnings continue for sections of Vancouver Island and the Coquihalla. Snowfall warnings are in place for sections of Highway 3, the Yellowhead, and Trans-Canada. Elsewhere on the North Coast, mainly cloudy this afternoon with a high of 5. Highs from 8 to 11 with periods of rain in the Kootenays and Okanagan. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, a chance of showers this afternoon with highs around 12. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Rob. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Thanks for joining us here on BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. We're live on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, live streaming as well on YouTube, and CBC Gem, and on TikTok. And in our last half hour, we talked about avalanche risk after 4 deaths in avalanches in the northern part of the province just on Sunday. 9 avalanche deaths in BC since December. We talked to Avalanche Canada as well, and we got these emails from one from Carol Ann at Roberts Creek, who writes, when my husband taught human geography, one of the questions he would ask his class at the beginning of the term was, what natural hazard in BC takes the most lives? Students rarely guessed the answer. Many said floods, but the answer, of course, was avalanches. Caroline, thank you for that. Sue writes, perhaps our search and rescue teams need to film avalanche rescues and add in flashing lights for first responders and use it to make warning advertisements. It also seems like when avalanche season is announced, backcountry activity should cease, but it doesn't. So what are the expected possible consequences that people are accepting? Sue, thank you as well. BC Today at cbc.ca. Sounds like some calls there for avalanche awareness, more avalanche awareness in BC. Thank you. BC Today at cbc.ca. .35 now. You're with BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very nice to be with you. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, we are in the middle of spring break, and often that means time for some spring cleaning in your home. I know you may have been trying to avoid it, but there are the books, the forgotten projects, old mail, maybe some clothes that your kids have outgrown. Yes, it is time to purge and clear the clutter. It can be tough, though, getting started, so we'll have some tips for you. And we're also asking you to call in. What is that spring cleaning project that is still on your to-do list? How do you approach spring cleaning? And what are your questions about trying to clear clutter? Or what's the clutter that you're struggling with in your home right now? You can give us a call, 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or 1-800-825-5950. You can also just hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or send us an email, bctoday@cbc.ca. Joining me now is Linda Chu, a professional organizer with Out of Chaos customized home and office solutions. Hello, Linda. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
I know you've just been speaking at in front of seniors about decluttering as well, and so you're joining us from your car. Thank you for doing that. What was it like this morning?
It was great. The common dilemma that everyone had was really about their stuff. So the topic at hand was your kids don't want your stuff. So it was
So what do you do?
Quite entertaining.
Yeah, I know we have talked about this many times, but what is it about this time of year, right? The spring, once you start seeing the cherry blossoms around, what is it that makes people feel like, okay, it's time to clean up?
Well, it's a time for rejuvenation. We've come through, maybe not as bad as in the east. We've come through a winter spell, cold spell. The spring blossoms are out. So I think everyone wants to sort of have, it's like a bit of a rebirth and a refresh, so to speak. So then people are looking at the stagnant spaces that they have in their homes and the stagnant stuff that they've carried around for years and years. So it's like, this is the year. I'm going to do it. We're going to dive into those piles.
Stagnant is such a good word because it really does just stay there.
Yeah.
And
those later piles are terrible.
They sure are. What are the items that tend to pile up even over the year?
Well, there's paper. Paper is pretty insidious because it's hard to go through, and people think, well, I might need it one day, and paper is difficult because it's one page at a time that you're going through, and definitely it's the memorabilia. It's all of the memorabilia. I always say it's never about the stuff. It is always about the relationship that we have with our stuff. So everything holds a memory. It holds an intention. So things that sporting equipment that we bought thinking that we're going to go for hiking, and you've got the hiking poles and that they're collecting dust, or craft projects like, oh, I'm going to knit. So you've got the yarn and the knitting needles that they kind of just sit there and it's been 2-3 years or more. So it's all the intentions that we surround ourselves, and every time we revisit them, those intentions come back to haunt us. Well, maybe I should. Maybe this is the year.
Yes.
So
yes, what do you do about that? Because it could very well still happen this year. How do you deal with those intentions?
Well, I think the most important thing is about what space do you have?
Right.
And what do you want your stuff, or do you want your space? I always say door number 3 is not part of the equation here. So you've got to be really clear as to what your why is. And if space is what you're craving for, then one has to deal with their stuff with that. And it's also looking at your life, having a really good look at where is your life right now, and do the items that you surround yourself with in your home, in your spaces, does it relate to who you are today? And that's a harder conversation to have, I think.
Yes, it's kind of an audit, right, of what you are actually doing right now, what you can realistically expect. But I love that. Stuff or space. Those are your two choices. Linda Chu is with me with Out of Chaos, and we're taking your calls about spring cleaning. What is that spring cleaning project that is on your to-do list? What is the clutter that you're struggling with right now? And let us know how you approach spring cleaning yourself, how you do it. Give us a call, 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Again, 1-800-825-5950. We have an email from Elizabeth who writes, just one line, where do I begin? That's it. That sums it up, doesn't it? I don't know. I feel like I'm pulling my hair out as well as I think about that. Where do I begin? Thank you so much for that email. bctoday@cbc.ca. Elizabeth getting us started there. Christine is joining us on the phone now from Fort St. John. Hi, Christine. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have a spring cleaning project ahead of you?
Well, spring cleaning, like for me right now, is every season, because being in my 70s, it's like it's got to go. So when I moved up here from Nelson, I had an opportunity 5 years ago to do the getting rid of it at the end of my 60s. And I spent hours on the beach burning. I borrowed my friend's beach and I burned and had a bonfire for days. And it was, I'm a massage therapist. It was patient files that I did not need, you know, but I could hardly part with from either Toronto or Nelson. And then the hardest thing for me, I was listening to you about struggles, was archives, like the family photos
Yes.
and my grandmother and my dad. And then I'm a filmmaker, and it's like, oh my God, I have an ancient filing from my dad was a land registrar, from their land registry office. It's an antique, and in it I've got film footage that I've had for like my first documentary was years and years ago. So it's like even that stuff. Up here in the north, I'm lucky I could take things that were antique and have them made into little sticks, you know, sticks that you put in your computer, and there you've got. And I did that with the archives of my dad's first films that he did, you know, when you had to splice and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And had those translated in.
So you digitize things.
I'm very lucky up here. There's a high level. But I hire, even in Nelson, I would get friends of my daughter, Holly, would come and we'd go through my storage unit, that kind of thing. And I wanted a house up here with no basement. Like, don't give me storage space.
Right.
And so right now I'm working in the garage, and I have a person who, you know, we go through, well, she'll come every Friday, and it's just like I've got the boxes where it's I'm down to pictures.
Right.
And but I'm very, very lucky that I'm tiny, so giving the clothes away, I have to find 12-year-olds that want my clothes. You know?
And it sounds too like so much of it is sentimental for you, right? It's your own your film projects and your father's projects as well. But Christine,
and my daughter's up here, she's 42, but I don't want to give up things, so I have to go and say, do you want this picture of you or not? Like,
right.
And if she says no, it's like, oh no, I'm going to have to burn it. Like, I can't do it. So I actually have people come and we go through, okay, these are the boxes of romances in my life, so that somebody is watching it. And then my daughter helped me. We burned boxes of my mother's meticulous checks. And, you know, just seeing that, it meant a lot when I had somebody there for my burnings. But
my gosh,
it's a fantastic feeling of freedom.
Oh my God. Okay.
I want to have it that it's a good day to die. So all my paintings have names and phone numbers on the back of them. I have a place that looks like an art gallery. So all the artists of the North and the Kootenays and wherever I've been, if anyone says they like something, I get their phone number. I put their name on the back of it. So if I'm hit by a truck tomorrow, I just want to make it easy for everybody.
Christine, oh my gosh, so much there. Thank you very much. Wow. I note, Linda, that she talked about she's 70, and this seemed to be like there's a transition in that, right? She wanted to end her 60s and kind of clean things up as she entered another phase in her life. Is that something that you see, that people go through transitions and that seems to prompt a yearning?
Absolutely. I think it's very common. We actually talked about that. There's two camps. One camp is because they've inherited from parents and grandparents and they know what the ordeal is, and now it's their own possessions. They don't want to leave that as a legacy for those that inherited, the executors and so forth. There's the other camp is, I don't care, not my problem. My kids will have to deal with it once I'm gone. But for those that are wanting to make reduce the footprint, reduce stress and the cost involved for their children to deal with it, they're taking those mindful steps right now and making some of those decisions while they can.
It's interesting too. And she talked about burning things, and I can already hear some people going, "Oh no, what are the ways that we can get rid of this stuff once we've decided, yes, I am ready to part with this? What are the ways that you suggest we actually discard things?"
When it comes to paper, of course, there's the recycling side of things, and then there's the rubbish. And from the shredding perspective, there's some shredding days. Urban Impact has a list on their website as to what community shredding days are available by donations and to charity, so you can make yourself available to those services. Otherwise, there's other companies that will take on shredding for you, but there is a cost against that.
Sure.
When you're dealing with that amount of shredding to do it in your home shredder, it will burn out your engine pretty quickly. So one has to really look at the volume that they have and take advantage of those community shredding days.
We have some emails coming in as well. Barbara writes from Black Creek, "I suggest playing a game with your friends. Choose a month, and on the first day, get rid of one thing. On the second day, 2 things, and so on. And by the end of the month, over 400 things will be gone, and you report to your friends every day." Oh, wow. Okay. So go ahead.
And that the buddy system is huge, because it is very lonely and very overwhelming. And having a buddy system where, you start at your home and then you spend, whether it's a half an hour, a couple of hours, you pick the timeline. And then the buddy system is that you do it for me, and then I'll pop over to your place and we'll do a similar amount of time in a different room. And then you rejoice. Then you celebrate. Don't go and buy more stuff. But you go out for a nice walk, catch a movie, but have some, friend time. And that's a reward that you have for helping each other out.
And Barbara also writes, she's pretty tough too. One piece does not mean one piece of paper. That has to be a stack of paper. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes. Tough rules here. And Barbara writes, donate, recycle, sell, or garbage. Thank you for that. BC Today at cbc.ca. If you want to call us on spring cleaning, what are the spring cleaning projects that are on your to-do list? What's some clutter that you're just having trouble with clearing in your home? And what is your approach to spring cleaning? Love to hear from you. 604-669-3733. 1-800-825-5950. Again, 604-669-3733. 1-800-825-5950. BC Today at cbc.ca. And on documents or photos that have value, memories and sentimental value, Michael writes from Nelson, any photos or documents or realia from the past can be given to local or provincial archives or museums. The staff will tell you what they will take, so then you can then know that it will be important for people to see in the future. Oh, look at that. That's a lovely thought. Marie is our next caller now in Tappan. Hello, Marie. What's some clutter that you're having trouble with?
Oh, my goodness, where to begin? I think it's appropriate to hear your radio show, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now, going through things. But to answer the question, I have trouble throwing away expensive hobby-related materials.
Sure.
And some of these would be things that are really hard to find. For instance, my medieval reenactment play. It takes hours scouring thrift stores to find just the right wooden bowl or spoons that you could pass off as medieval place settings.
Right.
And the looms that I haven't used, just hoping that someday I can retire and use them. I probably have 4 extra saddles I don't need, just because it's hard to find 1 or 2 to fit my horses.
It feels like you have a museum yourself in your home.
Yeah, it's looking that way, right? So, and especially with all the wildfires that have been around lately, if I have to grab and go, I don't want to accidentally grab stuff that doesn't work for me.
Right.
So, and of course there's the space, right? So you give up space and things like that.
Absolutely.
And,
but you mentioned something quite interesting about things that work for you. So I highly encourage people to surround yourself with items that fit your life today, so that when you do have that grab and go, everything that you grab is relevant and that fits. And there's buy nothing groups. There's a lot of places that you can donate things to, those free cycle, etc., so that there are people who are in need but are limited in funds. So you know that those items, when you do pass them on, will go to a good owner for rehoming.
Yeah.
What are your plans with all the medieval themed items, Marie?
Well, because I couldn't give them up, I had to start playing again. So I just went to a feast this weekend where I learned how to make cheese. So
amazing.
Yeah.
There you go.
At least with the club, though, you can find newbies who are just joining and say,
exactly.
You know, I've got a piece of trim that would fit you perfectly, and you can give it away and pass it along to people who can use it.
Yeah, great idea. Marie, thank you so much. I loved hearing about that. All those themed items, right? That do take a lot of time, and there's a story behind them and how you came to acquire them. What is that process like for people, Linda? Like, what are the steps that people can take in determining whether they can hang on to them or not?
I think the process is it's taking the time to do the consolidation. I have a 5-step process, the CLEAR, the acronym CLEAR. It's about consolidating what you have, limiting the volume if space is the issue, then looking at really doing a hard line evaluation of what really fits in your life right now and your space, and then what you want to keep then you allocate then into spaces in your home so that you can find things in a reasonable amount of time. And of the items that you're ready to pass on, that's the reduce, recycle, remove area. But it's tough. It's in gathering everything together, like with like, you have a really quick idea, a really fast time to realize how much you have from a volume perspective. When things are a little bit dribble here, a little bit dribble there, and they're all scattered throughout the home, you know you have it, but it's a little bit different when you compile everything all together to really see in your face what your volume is,
Right.
and then making some hard decisions.
That's some motivation for you right there. We have some emails and comments on TikTok. Monster Magnet writes, nothing is affordable. Hang on to everything. Yeah, you may find another use for it. Yeah, touche. Good point there, Monster Magnet. Thank you very much. An email from Melanie who writes, I'm facing getting rid of toys that my now nearly teenager no longer wants. Oh, this is me, Melanie, as well as stuffies, toys, and dolls that my mother kept for me and handed down. A couple of really precious items we are going to keep. The newer things I can give away, but some are too old and too well-loved to give away. I can't bear to throw away things with faces. I feel like they're reproaching me with their eyes. It breaks my heart. Please help. Oh, okay. Any advice you can give Melanie there?
You know, I think when things are not used, that's where the guilt and the intention comes in. Oh, I spent good money for it. And, you know, it's barely used. It's brand new. And that makes it harder, I think. Yes, there's emotional attachment because your stuff is really about, you know, your attachment to those. But I think you just need to also rejoice in the fact that these items were well loved. They have been purchased and they have been used and enjoyed, and memories, like years and years and decades of memories have come as a result of it. And I believe that knowing that the item has been, it's been purchased and it's been used for what it was intended. Was intended to give you joy, so you can pass it on knowing that it's done its job and you have the memories to prove it. Because the memory doesn't stay in the item, it stays with you as the individual and the family and the families that have been touched by that.
Wow. I love that. I hope that helps you out, Melanie. I think that's something that I can keep in mind as well. It's really about the memory. It's not, that memory isn't living in the doll, although the doll may be giving you a dirty look as you get rid of it. Let's go
But I'm sure, you know, you can have a lot of photos that can be taken with that.
Yes.
And curate certain pieces where you can put it in a shadow box. Might not be everything, but you can pick a few pieces, or you can take the fabric of the stuffy, for example, and that can be put into a shadow box with a photo of your son or daughter maybe holding onto that stuffy when he was or she was younger. So you can still have a piece of it, but not necessarily the entire item.
Yeah, that's really great. Kim is our last caller now in Vancouver. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Yeah, how's decluttering going for you?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I am a minimalist. So I don't have a problem decluttering at all.
Good for you.
But I wanted to give a tip to people. Basically, around this time of year, I tend to swap over my wardrobe, meaning I have things that I would only wear in the winter, and I have things that I would only wear in the summer, obviously. And so I go through them all, and I look back at this past year, so this past season, and if there's something I didn't wear at all, so like from September till now, or from even August till now, if I didn't wear anything that ever once, then I donate it.
Very good. That's a great system, Kim. And it's not very hard for you, is it? Yeah. Because you haven't worn it.
Great, because if I didn't wear it once, why do I still have it? And then every year, a few things get donated, and it's fantastic.
Win-win. Kim, thank you. Great tip. I do that as well. I've just done that myself, actually, done the rotation from winter into spring. Great tip, Kim, to leave us with. That's Kim in Vancouver. Linda, always such great advice and so wonderful to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me back.
That's Linda Chu, a professional organizer with Out of Chaos Professional Organizing Solutions. Thank you very much for all of your tips. And here's another question from Tom. How do I dispose of highly sentimental objects that can't be digitized? My father was a master mariner on deep sea ships for 50 years. I have his captain's hat. Oh my goodness, Tom, that's going to be a hard one for sure. Thanks for your email. BCtoday@cbc.ca.